Here's the deal. I don't think Adobe was ever scared of Filmora. I don't think Premiere Pro was ever scared of HitFilm. I don't think Adobe was ever scared of Sony Vegas. I don't even think that, at least since 2011, Adobe was scared of Final Cut Pro. And I'm generally like a big fan of Final Cut, and especially like the community and like all the creators doing cool stuff. If I wasn't in Resolve, I'd probably be in Final Cut. But I think Adobe might be scared of Resolve. And yeah, this might boil down to petty fanboy culture stuff, but it's fun. So let's talk about it. The focus of this video will be this recent article from Petapixel. DaVinci Resolve is now so good, it's impossible for competitors to ignore. And off the bat, jumping just off the title, 1, I agree. 2, I think that yes, it's maybe now impossible to ignore, but I do think competitors have caught on and are now thoroughly, looking out for Resolve. I think you really saw this maybe in that stretch from like Resolve 15 to 19. That, by my recollection, was some of like the worst like concerted and focused like hate that Premiere Pro got, of just like a lot of mounting issues. And I do think, especially since that time, Premiere Pro has gotten better. And I would love to think that all of that work, just, generally smoothing out the Premiere Pro experience, would have happened if Resolve wasn't a factor. But I don't know if I think that. And while I think you can see Resolve's influence on Apple and Final Cut Pro in a little bit of a different way, I do think it has been visible there as well. But I want to talk about this article, again from Petapixel by Jaron Schneider. Specifically, I think I want to pull out some of the quotes he got from other people for this article, because they're pretty great and interesting. And outside of talking through this article, I think videos like this are a great sort of like touchstone for the community every once in a while. Of course, we had that massive wave maybe like a year to 2 years ago of, it felt like every other month a giant YouTuber who was switching to Resolve and talking about it, and everyone else was able to, share their experience, but we haven't had one of those in a while. So consider this your moment to share your Resolve experience. Where did you come from? Why are you now in Resolve? Are you splitting your time between any bits of software? I know plenty of people are doing that, and that's great, but I just want to share some gems from this article. Of course, this article will be linked in the description. I'm going to be hopping around, so absolutely follow that link to support Petapixel and see this article in full. A chunk of this article is, getting readers up to speed with how far Resolve has come just over the last few years, and I specifically want to pull out a few quotes here by Bob Caniglia, the Director of Sales Operations at Blackmagic Design. And this is a point I love bringing up as well. He says, "We are incredibly proud of how far DaVinci Resolve has come. When Blackmagic Design acquired DaVinci, it cost $200,000 for one GPU-based system and more than $800,000 for a 16 GPU top-of-the-line system. Now there is a free version equipped with 95% of the features found in the studio version. It's also grown incredibly as an application, from grading to now editing, MotionVFX, Fairlight Audio, and more. It has AI tools with the DaVinci Neural Engine since 2019, and it's had a staggering number of workflows built around it, from the numerous hardware panels to its collaboration features in Blackmagic Cloud to the workflows with our switchers, network storage, cameras, and more. Most importantly, I love this. Most importantly, however, we're proud of the range of users. From students, content creators, and hobbyists trying out editing for the first time, to Hollywood blockbusters and Oscar-winning films, and everyone in between, we're proud to be able to empower any end user with a free and professional tool." That rocks, right? That rocks. One thing I try to bring up every once in a while, and one of the reasons I'm not as big an Adobe hater as some people, is I do remember that initial move to Creative Cloud and the initial culture even before then in Adobe of when the feature was just the ability to do the thing, right? Especially something like After Effects. The ability you could do what After Effects did at all was unbelievable on a home computer. Think the golden age of Video Copilot. The fact you could do any of this wild stuff in just a piece of software that you as a normal consumer could go buy, that was incredible for accessibility across the board. But even though Premiere Pro went on to capture the span of that market. And maybe even in marketing materials, it was a little bit more of like, hey, the average user can do any of this. It feels like Premiere Pro was still, aiming as high as they could in that chain and just letting the rest sort of trickle down. DaVinci Resolve, and really I think Blackmagic, has gone about things in a little different way. And this is I've talked about before and I do really like. DaVinci Resolve is such a little conundrum because it does feel like in numerous different ways, they are actively courting so many different points along that spectrum of first-time hobbyist or, someone tossing videos up on TikTok up to ridiculously pro-level work. When I was in Vegas for NAB last year, in that 18.5 update, one of the big features they were talking about was direct uploads to TikTok right out of Resolve. You didn't need to export a video and then get it over to your phone and then upload or whatever. Right in Resolve, you could connect your TikTok account and automatically upload. So if you wanted really high stuff on TikTok, you could do it there. But also in the update, they rolled out the initial implementation of their USD system for 3D inside the Fusion page. And USD is this massive, really from the professional side, this workflow integration powerhouse for like all things 3D, and Resolve wants to play in that field as well. And of course, something like color, it is color in Resolve, I'm absolutely sure still that the vast number of legit working professionals in the field who use Resolve are primarily colorists. I do think it's gonna have a much slower, not slower adoption, like they've been using color for a while, but I do think the adoption into people strictly editing in Resolve will take a while because, if they're editing professionally, they've been editing professionally for a little while. So it's gonna take a new generation who has a wider range of experience in different pieces of software, or, those users finding reasons to try out something new for Resolve to make too much headway in that area. But I love seeing this quote from Bob put like this. While I've had that feeling from Resolve that they're really like courting that whole spectrum, very cool to see it put into words like this. We get some awesome praise for Resolve being free, because that is awesome. And then Bob comes back with this quote, and specifically this section that I wanted to call out. Just because an application is free or affordable doesn't mean it should lack quality, and empowering the end user at every level is at the core of Blackmagic Design. One thing I've done a few times as well, if you've never head over to the Blackmagic Design website, if you do that and click company, you get just this page that talks about Blackmagic Design as a company. And yeah, this is like peak fanboy I get. But like, if you want to know what the company is about, one, you can see a lot of it in the kind of products and work they're doing. But if you want a little bit more of a direct statement leading their creative video revolution, this is a company that cares about getting those tools in as many hands as possible. You can see right from Grant Petty, the CEO, Blackmagic Design is dedicated to allowing the highest quality video to be affordable to everyone, so the post-production and television industry can become a truly creative field. Gotta love it. Back to Petapixel. The last thing I want to pull from their quotes from Bob here, he talks about, working with the community, which I think Blackmagic Design, massive props, has gotten so much better at. But he also specifically calls out our forum is another great resource for both us and our end users in this regard. I feel like I'm just old enough to remember the heyday of forums being like the best of the internet, and the Blackmagic forum still going strong. That's pretty neat. But also in this video, Petapixel gets comments directly from Adobe. And really when I saw some of those is when I wanted to share this more widely. Specifically, just this snippet. No doubt DaVinci Resolve is a great piece of software, by Francis Crossman, the principal product manager at Adobe Premiere Pro. Of course, there's a wider quote. No doubt DaVinci Resolve is a great piece of software, and we are taking the competition very, very seriously. We welcome any competition in the industry that forces us all to be better. In the end, competition is good for the consumer. Yep. At least to me, that feels like a pretty wild quote of just one company saying like, hey, yeah, this Resolve's pretty good. I also thought this poll was extremely interesting. Premiere was not designed to do color and audio to the same level as Resolve. I'll interject that Resolve wasn't designed to do audio well at all until they just added Fairlight into it. But Premiere was not designed to do color and audio the same level as Resolve. There was a time when an editor would pass their footage to a colorist and then an audio editor, and now with short form video, that has changed to where one person does it all. Resolve was designed as an app to finish something. Premiere was meant to be a video cutting application where you then pass it to someone else to be finished. We recognize that people want to stay in Premiere to finish what they're doing, and that's the goal going forward. And Jaron specifically calls out back in the article, Premiere Pro's forward-looking development emphasis is therefore a direct response to what DaVinci Resolve does well. Adobe, looking at Resolve, seems to be taking away from that observation that, hey, some people really like that you can do all this stuff in one program. Even though I think directly from a lot of users, you hear that sort of in the creative suite, right? That's the big strength of Adobe, is they have these dedicated software. So I'm really interested to see what Adobe does with Premiere Pro if their goal is to do more natively inside Premiere Pro. And they even sort of call that out. Premiere has the depth of control that pro editors expect and rely on. Everything Everywhere All at Once was cut in Premiere, and they could not have done that movie in Resolve, something that complex. That speaks to me of the deep integration with After Effects and the other apps in the Adobe ecosystem. It's not just about Premiere, it's about the whole Creative Cloud. Now, I don't know on a strict level what was done on Everything Everywhere All at Once that would be impossible to do in Resolve. But I absolutely don't doubt that the people making that movie had much more experience working in the creative suite, and that's why it made so much more sense for them than any new tool, especially through development of that movie, was still like right in a lot of this foundation laying for Resolve. And like a lot of people rightfully point out, for a lot of Hollywood work, Avid is still king for a number of valid reasons, but now it's interesting, I think, we're getting to the generation where a lot of people breaking in and doing movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once, have used Premiere Pro for the last 10, 15 years, so that's what they're comfortable with. And if we look at people getting started now who want to enter the broader film space, I think a larger number of those people are going to get started with Resolve. And if they don't have that many reasons to move, they won't. And if that generation rises up, then they'll be in a situation like these filmmakers of Everything Everywhere All at Once. They can use the tools they're comfortable with, and if those tools for a younger generation are Resolve, then we'll see those used to do some pretty incredible stuff. The article goes on to talk about Apple's Final Cut and how the influence of Resolve has been seen there. And I think especially with the iPad versions of the apps and even the Blackmagic camera app and the new Final Cut camera app and some of the back and forth there, that has been very cool to see from the outside. And I think, yeah, you can see in the marketplace and these new ideas and products coming up that I think definitely Apple and Blackmagic Design are like pushing each other forward to do really exciting things. The article wraps up, all three major video editing platforms have ardent supporters with good reason. However, there's no question Resolve's audience has grown in recent years, taking a larger piece of the pie. It will be interesting to see how Adobe and Apple respond, as they each have ambitious plans for their software. Mobile strategy in particular is a space to watch closely. I agree, although, last maybe side note, I want to know how Blackmagic feels about Resolve on iPad. It's hard to know what their ambitions were. They developed for Apple Silicon, so I don't think it was as giant a leap to get on iPad. Mostly, I think it was like interface and touch-based stuff. But I want to know if iPad is part of their ambitious nature in Resolve. I think it shows off a lot of the functionality with Blackmagic Cloud beautifully, and I think those cloud workflows is a giant strength of Resolve, and something I could talk about on its own for a while, just the incredible workflows that will come from Blackmagic Cloud, specifically with the Blackmagic Camera app, or the new cameras coming out, and a few older cameras that can even upload directly to Blackmagic Cloud right out of the camera. Lots of cool stuff. Of course, it's going to be interesting to see it all unwind, but I thought this article was a great excuse to sort of touch base. I thought I did a great job running through the current state of things. I'm very happy for those extra quotes. Those are always great to hear directly from a company that makes some of the cool stuff we use. And I wanted to talk about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.